9 experienced hikers venture into the frozen wilderness of the Ural Mountains, a story that has everyone wondering why they never venture outside, only to find their tent ripped open from the inside. Their bodies are found scattered on the snow, some barefoot, some with injuries so severe that investigators compare them to car accident victims, yet there is not a single external wound on their bodies. What force could frighten people so much that they would prefer to face certain death in sub-zero temperatures rather than stay inside their shelter? In January 1959, 10 Soviet soldiers and foreigners set out to reach the Otterton Mountains in the northern Urals. It was a difficult winter expedition, but nothing this experienced group hadn't done before. The group leader, Igor Dyatlov, age 23, had meticulously planned the route, and one member returned early due to illness, leaving 9 men to carry on what would become one of history's most perplexing mysteries. It remains puzzling because despite modern forensics and declassified documents, no single explanation fits all the evidence, and the Russian government only recently reopened the case in 2019. Timeline of key events. The group departed Vizhai, their last inhabited checkpoint, on January 27, 1959, and said goodbye to the people there, the people they saw alive for the last time. They trekked through dense forest and rugged terrain, recording their journey with memoranda and diary entries that clearly reflected their enthusiasm and their normal progress. On February 1st, they pitched their tent on the slopes of Kholat Shakal, a name that means dead mountain in the local Mansi language. Though the weather was deteriorating, that night something went terribly wrong. When the search party finally reached the empty tent on February 26th, they found it cut open from the inside, with boots and warm clothing still inside. Footprints led far into the darkness, some barefoot, some in socks, some in boots, leading downward into the forest. The first 2 bodies were found under a pine tree about a mile from the tent, frozen and wearing only light clothing. 3 more bodies, including Dyatlov's, were found on the way to the tent, as if they were trying to return, but were stopped by hypothermia. February 26, 1959, search party finds tent. The last 4 were not found until May, when the deep snow melted. They were found in a ditch wearing clothes that had been cut from the others' bodies. However, all 4 died not from the cold, but from severe internal injuries, which medical reports indicate were consistent with a major accident, although there were almost no external injuries. 1 member had internal damage to his head from a severe impact, 2 had massive internal fractures in his chest, and 1 member's face showed damage caused by natural conditions or the environment. Yet there were almost no external skin injuries. This was the most puzzling aspect to the investigation team. The Soviet investigation documented several physical findings that were beyond doubt. The tents were intact except for internal cuts, and investigators confirmed that these cuts were intentionally inflicted by the occupants themselves with knives. Footprints in the snow revealed 8 or 9 people walking in a line away from the tent. They were not running. There were no signs of panic or struggle at that initial stage. The distribution of clothing is documented. Some victims wore others' clothes, and some clothing samples showed higher than normal radiation levels. The autopsy reports described the injuries of the last 4 victims as major trauma with internal damage but almost no external scars, which the pathologist described as highly unusual. Several members of the search team reported seeing bright orange spheres in the night sky at the time of the incident, and other groups in the area reported similar sightings in February 1959. The official 1959 report stated that the group died due to a powerful natural force. The exact cause was deliberately withheld, which no one was happy about. Some researchers suggest that evidence points to a rare avalanche or slab slide that damaged the tent, causing panic and disorientation. However, this is disputed due to the location of the tent and the lack of freezing snow. Others point to military testing. The area was very close to Soviet installations, and traces of radiation could be evidence of exposure to weapons or rocket fuel. However, no declassified documents confirm testing that night. The question: could experienced hikers really have made such fatal decisions so quickly? Infrasound is another suggested explanation. Low-frequency wind patterns striking the mountain could theoretically cause panic and disorientation. This phenomenon has been studied, but it has never been definitively linked to the Dyatlov case. Missing tongues and eyes are often explained by natural decomposition and scavenging by animals, which forensic experts say is typical of a body left in water for months. However, the distinctive pattern of injuries, extreme internal force without any external marks, remains difficult to explain by any single environmental or human cause. The families of the 9 victims spent decades searching for answers, petitioning, and demanding the reopening of the case, living with the knowledge knowledge that their loved ones' final hours were filled with unimaginable fear. For the Mansi people, whose ancestral lands include Dead Mountain, the incident reinforced cultural warnings about certain areas being places of evil spirits, traditions that outsiders dismissed as superstition. The lone survivor, Yuri Yudin, who had relapsed due to illness, suffered from survivor's guilt until his death in 2013. He gave interviews in which he said he believed his friends had witnessed something beyond normal human experience. This case is a connection between forensic science, environmental psychology, and the limitations of investigation in extreme circumstances. Think of it as trying to reconstruct a car accident in which the car is missing. You have tire marks and injuries, but the most important part is missing. Today's cold case specialists say the 1959 investigation lacked tools we consider commonplace. No DNA analysis, limited photography, and political pressure to close the case quickly. This is significant because it shows how even well-documented mysteries can go unsolved when several strange factors come together. A reopened investigation in 2019 concluded it was likely an avalanche, but independent researchers quickly noted that it did not account for internal injuries, radiation, and an organized evacuation from the tent. We still don't know why 9 experienced hikers left their tents on a night when temperatures were lethal and winds were lashing the mountains. Some died from the cold and others suffered severe internal injuries that left almost no external trace. The question isn't what happened, it's why they made the decisions that led to their deaths. Each theory fits some evidence, but none captures the whole truth. In 2020, an official investigation concluded it was the result of an avalanche. But independent researchers say the original evidence points to several other possibilities. Some families are still demanding an international review, while authorities have shown limited interest. New technologies, AI-based photo analysis, improved weather modeling, can help reconstruct events, but access to original documents dating back years is limited. This is why this case remains a subject of debate and research. The 9 people embarked on this journey to bring their story home, but they themselves became part of a story that remains unclear even today. It reminds us that even in our thoroughly documented world, there are some final moments that leave only questions. If this mystery has left you wondering, check out the next one. The disappearance of Flight 19, when 5 planes vanished in clear sky. There too is evidence, but no answers. This presentation is based on an analysis of translated 1959 investigation documents, autopsy summaries, witness statements, and a 2019 government review. Some details are disputed among researchers, and the objective approach here is to present the available factual information, not any single theory. Now let's move on to another mystery. A farmhouse where a family had been hearing footsteps in the attic for several days. Footprints appeared in the snow that led to the field but never returned. And then, suddenly, none of the family members were found alive. It was later discovered that an unknown person had stayed in the house for several days, performing normal activities such as feeding the animals and eating in the kitchen, and then quietly departed without being detected. Hinterkaifeck was an isolated small farmstead located north of Munich, Germany. In March 1922, the Gruber family lived here. A family farm, quiet, but recently the focus of a series of strange occurrences. The head of the family had told neighbors that he had seen footprints leading from the trees to the farm, but not returning. A newspaper was found in the house that no one recognized. No source could be found for the sounds heard every night in the attic. In the preceding months, a maid had also quit her job, saying she felt as if someone else was present in the house. The family was last seen on the evening of March 31st, 1922. No one contacted them after that. When the investigation was finally completed, a quiet but horrifying truth emerged. All the family members had been murdered, and the perpetrator remained at the scene for several days after the incident. He looked after the animals, prepared food, and then disappeared, shrouded in mystery as suddenly as he had appeared. Even after a century, the case remains one of Europe's most perplexing, unsolved mysteries. This is a story not just of crime, but of the unsettling silence that arises when the truth is revealed, but answers are missing.
This video is created for entertainment and educational purpose only.